Hi there, this is one of a series of videos accompanying the Joomla tutorial developing an MVC component, and it's the second one of two associated with this step, Basic Backend. In the first one we looked at the pagination, and in this video we're going to look at more of the HTML side of things. In particular, we're going to be looking at our layout file, default.php. So let's jump right into that. And the first thing you notice is this form element. Our action, well, that's going to take us back to the correct place, in Joomla, our Hello World component and our Hello World's view back to where we are, and going to send via post. But this here is very important because all of the JavaScript around Joomla works on the basis of this being called admin form. So if you look at other examples of components, they all work on having admin form here. So that is just something that needs to be put in for every admin form. So let's look at some of these calls. jtext, and there we see another of these underscore functions, which we saw first of all, I think it was in the previous step. And if we go to our search for our class jtext, we find this underscore function, which translates a string into the current language. We're going to be looking at language translation coming up. I think it's the next step. So I'll say no more about that now. The next function here, jhtml with an underscore, and you may remember from our previous step what this basically involved was taking the first part of this here, the grid, and adding it onto jhtml and calling this method checkAll within that class. i.e., if we go to jhtml grid, we should find a checkAll function there. Method to check all checkboxes in a grid. And basically what that is doing is it's generating this generating the HTML for this check all box. So if we check that, then all of the other boxes get checked as well. So that's what that is doing. We go on down here, get pagination, get list footer. As we found in the previous video, that's sticking out this bit here. Get pagination, get row offset. That's another pagination function, which is just putting the number of the record down the left hand side. jhtml grid.id, and if we go and look at our definition of jhtml, oops, the wrong one. jhtml id, method to create a checkbox for a grid row. I think grid is just really Joomla's term for a table. They maybe avoided tables because they might not use an HTML table for the design of these structures which look like tables. So what this is doing is it's putting out this box here. So it's putting out generating the HTML for this little checkbox here. jhtml jgrid this time, published. So if we go again to class, we find jhtml jgrid this time, and there's a function there, published, which returns a published state on a grid, as it says. Some of these I think could be improved in terms of their description, but what it is doing is it's providing this little box here and clicking on it. If we had functionality behind, would go and unpublish that item. So those are the basic HTML elements which are present in the table. However, there is a little difference between the way that this works and the way that other things work. So if we go down to articles, for example, got the same little check all box and the checkbox. And if we check both of those, this check all box gets automatically checked. See that? Whereas if we go to our component and click all of these boxes, it doesn't get checked. Now, why is that, you may ask? And furthermore, I'm going to go to Chrome for this. If I switch on the developer tools and go along to here, I see a JavaScript error, uncaught type error, cannot read property value of undefined. Over here and click, I get another error, cannot set property value of undefined. So what are we going to do to try and fix these things? If you want a challenge, you may be wanting to stop this video now and try and fix those yourself. But otherwise, let's go ahead and try and fix those. The first thing maybe we should do is check that this isn't core functionality that's gone wrong. So if we go here and check that, or if we click this box here, an article unpublished, publish that one again. We're not getting any errors here, so the errors must be in our code. So let's go back to our component and see whereabouts is this error. And if we look at sources, we can see the various sources that we have. And here we've got in our media system.js directory, we've got core.js, and that's where it's saying there's a problem. There's a problem in core.js line 1. So let's go to our, this is our, let's tidy this up a bit. Administrator. Okay, so in our media folder it said in system.js there's a file core.js and it's on line 1 it said. So if we open this, well, we find that this has really got minified, so that's not a lot of help. But thankfully Joomla have provided us with an uncompressed version as well. So let's go and we'll change this to core original.js and we'll do this and we'll do save as core.js. So now in our got a core.js, which is a copy of our uncompressed, and the original core.js I've renamed to core original.js. Now let's go into our Chrome. It's down a bit. And we'll have to reload, and we'll have to press Shift with reload, probably to reload the JavaScript file. We'll click on here. Right, okay, so it's showing up line 423 of our JavaScript. It's giving us a problem. So if we go down to line 423, right, Joomla is checked. Okay, so let's just look at our element here. Okay, we can see this is an input element. which is a checkbox, and it's got on click Joomla.isChecked, this .checked. So it's running this JavaScript, which aligns with where we are here. Okay, and what is the actual error? It's saying cannot read property value of undefined, and it seems to be at line 423. So line 423 cannot read value of this. So let's just down console.log checked and see what that gives us. We'll save that. We'll go back into Chrome, reload. Okay, so it's coming up undefined. So if we try and take a value of undefined, it's going to give us that problem. Let's compare that with our articles. I've gone into Firefox again. Content articles. And when I click on this, okay, it's giving us something different here. It's giving us an input tag, which we don't have. So let's see what is going on with articles. So we'll go to our administrator components, home content, and this is a view which is called articles. We find that for the first time. And so it should be running this file here, default.php. So let's have a look at this. And the problem seemed to be with this thing called box checked. So let's have a look at checked. So what we've got down at the bottom is a hidden field, a hidden input type named box checked. And I'll bet you we don't have one of those in our own file. So let's click our own file. Can't find box checked. So, as I said, what Joomla developers generally do is they just copy from something standard like this. So let's try that approach. And we need to include this in our own default.php. Now, we've got a choice. We can add it to the live files, or we can add it to our own developer files and then zip up and create a new version. But what I'm going to do is add it to my developer files. Down the bottom, it was within form, wasn't it? Yep. And I'm just going to add it there. Save that, and then I'm going to copy from my developer code in here. Copy that and paste that into our live files. So our hello world components, our hello world component, view, world's view, and we want to paste it there. Place that file. Now let's see what effect that has had. We will go into components. I have to reload this. Let's just do a shift. Console. Okay, so that's good. When I click on this, it outputs that field there, and it doesn't give me any errors. So that's good. That's one problem fixed. The other problem is that this can't set property of undefined at line 58. And if we look at this element here, see what it's doing. Let's try. It's running list item task. It's the JavaScript function that it's running. So hopefully that will be what we see at line 58. Let's go back to our JavaScript, core.js. And 58 form.task value. So let's check our code here. It was list item task. So let's for list item task. And we see that it's calling submit form. And Joomla submit form. And that is where we're getting the problem, line 58, with this task being wrong. So let's go back to our articles layout, and we see this other thing here, which also is a hidden field, which is associated with task. So let's try and put this in as well to solve that problem, and we'll save that. And we'll reload. Okay, and then we'll try clicking this, see what happens. Oh, we've still got a problem with this. Did I save that? Oh, of course I didn't copy this. Didn't copy this to the live directory, so let's try doing that. Here it is here. Oops. Sure, I get this, and we'll copy this to, should be here. Reload everything and then try clicking this. Okay. Okay, so an error has occurred, invalid controller. So we've definitely done something there. Invalid controller name equals hello worlds. And it's obviously sent a post there. And if we go to Firefox, this is what I want to get. Okay, so the post has actually sent it's done a post to that form, and it's sent up a task, hello worlds.unpublish. So what it's trying to do there is it's sending the post. The task is set to hello worlds.unpublish, and if you remember an earlier video where we looked at get instance and what it does there, it finds that if it finds a task set to something like that, it will take this as the controller and this unpublish as the method to run within that controller. So what it's trying to do there is it's trying to find our controller.helloworlds and run the unpublish method within that. And obviously it hasn't found that controller hello world, and it's put out this message to us there. So how do we go about fixing that? Well, if we go back to the API for jgrid.published, there's an interesting thing called enabled parameter there, and it doesn't really tell you a lot there, but it's the sort of thing which might work if we changed our enabled from true to false. Let's try that. And this is in our own directory here. So we'll take this file and copy it again into our live directory. Okay. And then let's try components world. Click on that. And it's not doing anything. So that seems to have fixed the problem. It's not outputting any error messages here. Whereas before, if we clicked on it, oh, it's gone now. But before, when we clicked on it or highlighted it with a tooltip, it came up with the option to unpublish. So it's obviously changing the tooltip there by saying that it's not really available to be unpublished. And it's just giving a message there to say it's published. So we've kind of fixed those two errors. I should just add that I'm working with a particular version of the Hello World tutorial. So by the time that you start get round to looking at this video, these problems may already be fixed in the code. Might be a bit of a shame. However, the other thing I wanted to say was that now this has solved this other problem. So if we tick all of the boxes, lo and behold, the overall checkbox now gets set as well. And that is really because we're no longer crashing out at this line of the JavaScript, and we're continuing on this function which has this functionality here, which is toggling the main toggle checkbox depending upon all the other values. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you find it useful, and thanks very much for watching. Bye.